Good evening, and welcome to the Warren County Schools Board Work Session / Business Meeting. A quorum has been established, and I now call to order our work session / business meeting. I now call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I call for a motion to approve the June 22nd, 2021 work session / business meeting agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the June 22nd, 2021 work session business meeting agenda.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Lehman, second by Ms. Byrd. May we vote electronically, please, first, and then vote by raising our hand. The motion is carried. Thank you. I now call for public comment. Check it for me. Dr. Canby, can you check? Right here. No. Okay. There are no public comments, and there were none that was submitted to us electronically. No public comments. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to our acting superintendent, Dr. Whitaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to say good evening to Ms. Hallebrand and board members. At this time, we'll have information item on 4.1, Ms. Jennings and Ms. Scott with our multi-tiered systems of support.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have 3 documents we're going to share information with in terms of MTSS this evening. They're guiding documents for our schools. We have an executive summary, a brochure, and the handbook. I will be sharing the executive summary, and then Ms. Scott will share components of our handbook and then the parent document as well. The purpose of the documents, first of all, is intended to be an evolving document. First of all, it's a document that's living. It will be continuously changing as we receive updates from the state. MTSS is the multi-tiered systems of supports, and we have input from our schools, or the document is going to be used with our schools and for our schools, our principals, leadership teams, teachers, school personnel, support personnel, and other educators. The district leaders and the district support personnel will be using this document to provide clarity around MTSS and the implementation of the core components of MTSS. The ultimate goal is to improve students' overall performance outcomes, as well as the whole child. Actions from our public school unit. The MTSS handbook was and is a collaborative enterprise. The district MTSS team consists of the chief academic officer, yours truly, the student services coordinator, the curriculum and instruction Title I director, Ms. Scott, exceptional children's director, the SEL, which is social emotional learning / pre-K coordinator, technology director, and EC compliance specialist, all helped to refine the input of this document. It is definitely a collaborative cycle that we are going through in terms of creating this document for guidance and for implementation throughout the district. The focus and resource accessibility. This handbook does provide a strong and explicit description of the 5 components, the commitments associated with the components, a set of evidence-based practices and links to the resources or the set of recommended look-fors. Support resources will also be provided within this document that supports those 5 components. The handbook will be available online, first for the public and for our parents to access. It's embedded with links to resources and supports. And each one of our school-based MTSS teams will receive a hard copy of the handbook. And like I said, ongoing updates will occur as needed, and it will be used to encourage and support the self-assessment of the MTSS team's work within the school to progress their implementation and to set focused goals for their school's MTSS teams as they serve students. The MTSS parent brochure was developed in order to provide a quick reference to parents and to educate them about what MTSS is and the process and how it benefits all students, not just one particular group, but all students.
All students.
Ms. Scott?
Thank you.
Can I say something, if I may? I'm just, you talked about all the input, all the elements that gave you input into then creating this document. I'm just curious as to why an MTSS specialist isn't on that final team.
An MTSS specialist?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ms. Scott is our MTSS coordinator.
I'm sorry, I don't mean a specialist, but a teacher, one who's going to do the work so that they see their work as being valued as well as they have ownership of the document.
Right. Teachers do have input. As we met with them, we have, the coaches that we have dual roles. They're the MTSS school coordinator. They're the MTSS school coordinators as well as instructional coaches, which go hand in hand. Our coaches as well as our teachers have provided input into this document. It's just an oversight. But teachers are part of the development of this process.
Because when I read the document, there was no teacher's name on it
Okay.
as being part of it.
On
And
the-
I'm just,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
talking about including teachers
Yeah.
at that level because
Yes.
I think we need to
Mhm.
have teachers feel that they're
that's an easy
valued, their
fix.
input.
It is, and we would,
And that there's ownership in it,
Mhm.
and having their name, one of their names on it, and be
Definitely.
representative, I think is really important.
okay,
So
we will make
Yeah.
that happen, yes,
Yeah,
but they
thank you.
definitely did provide.
I'm sure
some
they
input.
were.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm sure
ma'am.
they were.
We'll just make sure their name is noted.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good point, though. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. I'm going to, well, can we start? Well, we'll start. This is the parent brochure that we have developed, and we're planning to get this professionally printed to give out to every parent at the beginning of the school year. It goes into identifying the tiers, important terms for the parents to know, so when they go to the MTSS meetings, they will have understanding of what type of verbiage is being used with them, tips for them at the middle and elementary school as well as the high school.
Okay.
So we just wanted to make sure that our parents are abreast as to the process and to get them to understand that not only can their teachers make a referral, they can make a referral for their child as well.
Thank you.
So if you can go to the table of contents, please. I am not going to read through all of this with you because I know that you've already read through it, but I'm just going to highlight some of the things that we have here. At the first part of the book, of course, we're talking about exactly what MTSS is to make, and that's something that as the instructional coaches in the curriculum instruction department, we have spent a lot of time this year working with the schools to ensure that all staff understand what MTSS is, as well as develop their school-based teams. And this year, every school had a school-based MTSS team.
Wonderful.
In the section 1, by attending the various trainings, because we participate in them at the State Department level, there are certain acronyms, there are certain words that you need to have a clear understanding of. And we wanted to make sure that all of our staff were using the same definition, so we included that as a part of the book. We also have a timeline for data review. So it's by the month. They will know exactly when they need to have their first data review, their second data review, third, fourth, and so on and so forth. So that way, they won't wait till the end in order to do so. Interventions is also included in there. We've given examples of interventions for them to use, as well as links where they can actually click on their live hyperlink and go to the interventions. We have also given specifics as to what they need to do during their data meetings, what needs to occur during the MTSS meetings, sample agendas. For the forms, we have examples of exactly how the forms are supposed to be filled out, because if they're not filled out correctly, they have to start the process, come back again, and that's wasting a lot of time. Then we have in there exactly what a Tier 2 student is. A lot of times we don't have a clear understanding of what the difference between Tier 2 and Tier 3. Even, I know it was conversations when we were having the school-based meetings, that they didn't understand when to move them from one tier to another. So we have included that in the handbook as well. And we have the process for them inputting the information in RTI Stored, which is the district platform that we use to house all of our student data. So when they click on their class, go to a student's name, and if it comes up EWS, by all the data going to that one platform, they will know that that's a student that they need to put on the watch list. So that is pretty much, and we have, what are your questions? Are there any questions? I know I went really fast.
That's okay, that's okay.
Yes. I noticed you said that, you know, you had school-based meetings. What about staff development for the teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
You do?
Our coaches were responsible for doing the staff development. They were trained, and then they trained at their school level for the
That's
MTSS
good.
process. And then each one of us on the district team was assigned to a school, so we participated in their MTSS meetings as well.
And could you tell me how they were trained by a specialist?
Yes, the coaches were trained. They attended the meetings that I attended through the State Department. We have monthly meetings that we attend.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I thought it was laid out very thorough. I
Yes,
really did. I thought it was
It's a lot.
Really, it was a lot, but I thought it was laid out very well.
79 pages of a lot.
Yeah,
And this is one of the artifacts that we have to have for the statewide corrective action.
looks like we're ready.
So, you know, and I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
We used that checklist as a guideline for the
I
component.
think it's great. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ms. Scott and Ms. Jennings. You had a question, Victoria? Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys.
All right, and like I said again, thank you to Ms. Scott and Ms. Jennings and the whole team. There was a
Yeah.
lot of work
Yeah.
and that went into that document, and especially with the intentional focus on social emotional learning with our scholars coming back from the pandemic. We know it's going to be critical to our success. So thank you, ladies, again, and the team. So at this time, we'll move to our action items, if I'm in order, Madam Chair. And so we'll have 5.1, which is social emotional learning and mental health, and it will be Ms. Jennings and Ms. Austin Kern.
Okay, with this particular item, we have two documents again, the executive summary and then the actual school improvement plan. The executive summary is developed to just kind of give you an overview of what's about to be presented. I will read this first paragraph and the vision because I think it's very important that we thoroughly understand what social-emotional learning is. Social-emotional learning is the process of developing skill to recognize, manage emotions, develop caring and concern for others, establish positive relationships, make responsible decisions, and handle challenging situations effectively. And that was taken from castle.org. These skills are used throughout life and are essential to developing critical thinking, problem-solving skills, emotional health, and resiliency. Emotional well-being is also impacted by factors outside the school environment that have a direct impact on children's ability to learn. Schools can make a difference by providing effective instruction in social-emotional learning and providing a continuum of mental health supports to improve academic success as well as positive overall health. And the vision of this plan states that all students will develop social-emotional competencies to increase their personal resilience, socially and academically within the school, community, and home. Warren County Schools will strengthen its capacity to develop and support students and staff social, emotional well-being, and overall mental health. And this is crucial following a COVID-19
Yes.
school year.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that we are supporting our staff and students
That's
in that
right.
manner. And the purpose of this document is to lay out Warren County Schools' plan for promoting student mental health and well-being and for assessing and improving upon the effectiveness of supports for the mental and social emotional health, including substance use needs of our students. This is in compliance with the North Carolina State Board of Education Policy, SHLT-003, School-Based Mental Health Initiative adopted November 5th, 2020, which requires submission of this local school improvement plan by July 1, 2021. The initial plan is a baseline for Warren County School status with regard to the mental health services already in place, as well as areas that are to be strengthened as we move forward. School mental health quality assessments were conducted in our district this year for all of our schools, April 2021, and the results of this and other data points guided the inclusion of the actions that you will find within this plan. All assessments confirmed that many of the components that are required or need to be addressed in this policy are already in operation in our district. However, the planning process is an opportunity to refine the infrastructure that we do have in place and to identify gaps and to address those gaps that we may have. So at this time, Ms. Austin Kearney, our Student Services Director, will be presenting the components of the plan.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have a copy of the plan before you, and as Ms. Jennings indicated, in November of 2020, the State Board of Education mandated that every public school unit across the state conduct a planning process and provide them with an initial plan that will, of course, be updated annually as we move forward. So what you have in front of you is Warren County's initial plan. And we understand that this is a work in progress, that it is an ongoing effort to continually improve how we support our students emotionally as well as our staff. So the components of our plan, as you can see, the content is listed on in the far left corner. SEL and mental health prevention strengths and needs. So we started with assessing what do we already have in place, what are we already doing? And when we conducted the SHAPE assessment that Ms. Jennings referred to at the individual school level, and we did a district-wide SHAPE assessment as well, what we found is that we're really good at teamwork.
Okay, that's good.
We work together really
That's
well.
good.
That was one of the highest ranked
That's good.
items on the SHAPE assessment, which means that we are integrating, all of our work together, and we are really used to and accustomed to problem solving together for the benefit of our children. So what we decided, and of course you all know that we adopted the Sandy Hook Promise pieces several years
Yes.
ago, and those are strongly related to mental health and suicide prevention and those kinds of things. So we have those pieces in place, and we've added things like the anonymous reporting system and those types of things. So we have some things in place. We have some things already in place that are strong components of the plan. However, we also identified that there are some needs, that there are some needs that we need to, that we need to address. We need to integrate more school-based mental health services. One of the things that the pandemic uncovered is that, which we knew, was that even when we are able to identify the need for services in a child and with a family, those services are not always easy to access. And so one of the things that we can do as we move forward is to make room for mental health professionals and providers to meet with the identified children in the school buildings. And that will eliminate that barrier of access and will provide continuity of services for the children. Many of the children who were already seeing mental health professionals just fell off the table during the pandemic. They did not participate in the telehealth and those kinds of things. So we're starting from scratch in a sense, and we need to do what we can to facilitate their access to services as much as we can. The plan also requires that there the annual staff development. And we're working with Dr. Whitaker and HR on identifying those modules. The state board requires that at least 6 hours of initial training for all staff members, and that is to include something on suicide prevention. So every staff member will know how to identify and what to do with regard to seeing those signs. And then following that, you should have 2 hours, every staff member should have 2 hours of mental health specific training. So we're working with Cardinal to bring mental health first aid
Wonderful.
to our staff, and particularly to the student services staff. The next area is what are our existing SEL mental health prevention initiatives, and you see the list there. You're familiar with them because we've talked about them before. And at the very top is MTSS RTI, which is intended to convey that this is not separate from. It is an integrated component of the multi-tiered systems of support. Behavioral interventions, behavioral data, mental health data, social emotional data are among the data points that the MTSS teams are looking at, because we're looking at the whole child, right?
That's right.
And not just their academics. So
That's right.
as we strengthen this, this component of our work here, that will create more sources of data to give us a clearer picture even of how we might help our students in Tier 2 and Tier 3 in particular move forward. The next section is building and aligning our infrastructure, and talked about that a little bit. Adopting the mental health training program, which Human Resources would help us with. We'll update our school-based response teams. Remember, with the Sandy Hook Promise, our initial training was identifying teams at each school and training them on threat assessments and those kinds of things. We've had some turnover, and so we have to build in a system that automatically recognizes from year to year who those team members are and make sure that everybody on the team is trained annually. And so that's something that we identified as an example of something that we need to build infrastructure around. We're also going to engage relevant stakeholders, including families, students, community providers, and cross-system partners with the goal of building stronger school, family, and community partnerships to strengthen our SEL and mental health prevention pieces. And then we have to align this all with our academic objectives. SEL in particular is something that can be integrated into the classroom, right? And so what our work is to build the capacity of the staff to do that, to help them recognize ways in which they can. And the state has done a lot of that work for us because it's already aligned the SEL objectives with the state standards. So we just have to work in PLCs to give them little doses of how they can effectively incorporate social emotional learning. And of course, we already have adopted the Rethink Ed platform, which is a digital platform that is comprehensive, provides the lessons, the alignment, everything that is needed at the teacher's fingertips to use as they try to integrate SEL into their classrooms. We have to, the state policy requires that we have a SEL prevention curriculum. We already have that, Rethink Ed, that we are providing instruction. We're already doing that, and especially even in summer school. We have a block at the beginning of every day that starts the day with the children participating in social emotional learning activities to just give them a good start, good strong start to the day. And then we have to work with our staff to create an atmosphere and an environment that is conducive to supporting all of these things. The data evaluation, as I mentioned, might be is a part of our MTSS process. And so we will be integrating the data that we will be collecting through our SEL assessments and so forth with the, aligning that with the calendar and things that Ms. Scott talked about in the MTS, and it's already integrated into the MTSS handbook. Treatment referral and reentry refers to those students who need mental health services, who have identified or we suspect because of the assessments that we've done internally or the observations that we made, we're referring them to mental health services. And one of the key thing that we're going to do this year is meet with the providers that we have. We've already updated our provider list. Cardinal is helping us with this. And we will, our objective is to develop a memorandum of understanding with providers who can serve school-age children, so that we already have an agreement about how we will work together, and if they need to see the children in the schools, what that will look like. We've already drafted the MOU. We have to, pass it on to the attorney for review and so forth, but we're looking at implementing that component. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
You said that, does every school have an SEL block at the beginning of the day? Is that what you said?
No, I said for summer camp.
Summer school.
Summer
Just
camp.
summer- oh,
Summer
okay.
For summer camp, yeah.
Well, I know a lot of schools start their day with that, and
Right.
it seems to be something that I hear is
Effective,
really works because
It does.
a child that isn't in school is noticed by his peers, and there's kind of just something that happens. when-
Accountability.
Yeah, but I think maybe if it works in the summer school, I didn't quite catch that. That's why I wanted you to restate that.
Right, yeah, so we're trying that out in the summer, making it,
That's great.
mandatory part of the curriculum, and then these teachers who are working in the summer will go back armed and ready
Right, that's right.
to continue that
That's
practice.
a good thing. What's the percentage of our students who need those mental health services? Do you know?
I do not know a percentage, I
Okay.
do not, but I will I'll do
Okay.
that research and report that to you.
I was just thinking, because, sometimes we know, even with kids with disabilities, sometimes we don't diagnose them, but they do have a disability, you know what I mean? So I was just wondering, because I know there's a need.
Absolutely, there is,
And-
and, yeah, the MTSS process,
Identifies.
Identifies,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's why I think it's great.
It moves us in that direction, so
Yeah, it
we
helps
don't
you guys.
lose or miss any kids.
That's right. That's good.
Any other questions?
Just have a comment. I'm a big proponent of SEL, and so when I'm looking over the timeline, there's just a lot that says ongoing from August to, the next year, and, I'd like to see, daily, weekly, monthly,
More
where you start to
specific.
really see that it's an integral part of the curriculum. And we give it the time that it deserves, because we have so much pressure and focus on academics that sometimes we don't give kids the chance and the time that they need for those kinds of things to be addressed, because we're so focused on academics. So I would like to see it have a prominent
That's a
place in
that's a
our-
good point. And I think that as we begin to work through some of these action items, those particulars will roll out
Great.
and become clearer.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you so
All right,
much. We
thank you.
appreciate it.
And Ms. Lehman, we are working on that schedule for the year. for
Great.
SEL, for daily
I just want to know we're
integration.
supporting it.
Oh,
That's-
yes, and it's really funny because we just had that conversation.
Great.
So
That's
it's
good.
perfect timing. About
Perfect.
how we're going to schedule that within the daily schedules of the
That's great.
schools.
And doing it in summer camp is excellent, so you can do a
Right.
trial and
Exactly.
make it happen.
It's the pilot.
That's right, it's a pilot.
Yes.
And also too, and Ms. Jennings and I are working together, we'll look at trying to embed some of that in the PD. I know we've actually
That's
modeled some of the restorative circle pieces over here at the
We
middle
did,
school.
We did.
And then also with Ms. Scott's expertise with the energy
Yeah.
bus initiative. So basically, you can incorporate this daily, and it won't take a lot of time, but it
That's
builds
right.
that sense of community
That's
and
right.
connection with the kids, and you're addressing that mental health piece as well.
That's
So we'll definitely look at
Wonderful.
all of that.
We're excited about it.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Definitely. That's good investment.
That's
I think we
good.
can
Yeah.
take action on it.
Okay, so this is, thank you, this is an action item, so I call for a motion to approve the social emotional learning and school mental health.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the improvement plan for social emotional learning and school mental health.
Second?
Motion has been made by Ms. Long, second by Ms. Byrd. May we vote, please? And then by raising our hand. All right, the motion's carried. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll have action item 5.2, our 21-22 CTE local application plan, and it will be presented by Ms. Jennings and Mr. Fogg.
Okay. So the executive summary for the CTE application plan is that basically every year, we do have to create this document and submit it to the state of North Carolina for their approval. And this plan allows us to utilize state and federal funds for the purpose of CTE. And we service students in grades 6 through 12. And the requirements for our district is that our school board approves the plan that we have to upload and sign off on the statement of assurances. The program and services includes services at Northside K-8 School, Warren County Middle School, and Warren County High School. And, you know, the programs, I will say, have really been very productive and thorough over the years, and we want to keep that going. The funds, resources will be utilized to purchase things such as supplies and materials to ensure that we have employment for our CTE teachers, staff development, career and tech assessment and curriculum, materials that are used to implement the standards that are required by the state of North Carolina. And we also use the funds to assist special populations like our EC populations, our ELL populations, and any others that we can assist. The funding sources include PRC 13, which includes the months of employment, PRC 14, which is state program support, PRC 17 is federal, also program support. And so Mr. Derek Fogg, our CTE coordinator, will be presenting the components of our plan this year. Thank you.
Good evening.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
You're fine.
It says that this program supports funds for Warren County High, Northside, and Warren County Middle. We have CTE at 2 other schools on the books. So it does not provide CTE for those schools?
Which other schools?
New Tech and Early College High School.
Okay, so at early college, those are CCP classes, which are college and career readiness classes. So we don't support that because the college is already receiving Perkins dollars to
Okay.
support them. And at New Tech, we do support a teacher for half of the period. So she teaches CTE courses for us, half of a day, and then she does the other half with the school itself.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I just didn't see that. I was just
Yeah,
trying to make
because-
sense of that.
Technically, she's part-time for us,
Okay,
so we only address the full-time.
I got it.
Yeah,
I got it, thank you.
Thank you
no
for that.
problem. Thank you.
And to be phasing out.
Good evening again.
Phasing it out.
Good evening.
Just to give you all some updates, this plan was brought about in 2018 when they reactivated Perkins and they changed the actual bill from 2006 up until now. So President Trump actually submitted this and it was approved. So at this point, we have to do a comprehensive local needs assessment, which allows us to assess our district to see what we need, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and how we can build stronger community relationships. So due to the pandemic, a lot of that could not take place because that was right at the time of the pandemic when we were forming our committees. So we will be doing that part of the process this year,
Okay.
starting fall.
Okay.
Because this plan is an ongoing 2-year plan. So we submit it every year as an update and as a living document.
Okay.
I am not going to read through all of the data indicators, but I will address them. So our local plan consists of the data indicators performance, local application narratives, budget, which is our Perkins Funds for federal grants, and then our state-supported grant, and then our months of employment and our assurances. So as you see, our data indicators of performance is our 1S1, 2S1, 2S2, 2S3, 3S1, 4S1, and 5S1, and 6S, and 5S4. This changed from previous years. We've actually added more which is the science component, as well as the credential component. Those two have been added. You can go ahead. So when we look at the indicators actually align with secondary ed. They actually align with math, science, and English. So the numbers that you will see on the actual document is what the state gives us based off of the performances that they've made through those grades and through those subjects. Go ahead on up there. Go to local application narrative. Okay. So for our narratives, we address each one of those indicators through these questions that we will be going through. This slide that you see gives you an outlook of what Warren County High School career academies have, the national clusters that they align to, and the state-approved pathways. If we created a local course option, it must fit through a state-approved pathway. So we have our engineering and construction technology, business marketing and entrepreneurship, business marketing and entrepreneurship again, business marketing and entrepreneurship, and medical science and health professionals, medical science and healthcare professionals, and medical science and healthcare professionals again. Next slide. So here we talk about the CTE course offerings and the activities provided with the Perkins Funds to include at least one state-approved career pathway. In this pathway particularly, we're talking about how we're driving the skilled workforce development by showing them hands-on experiences in all these classes. And it gives us an opportunity to go down to 6th grade, even though funding supports 8 through 12, it allows us to go as low as 6th grade with exposure during 5th grade.
That's good.
So we're trying to start a lot earlier. We have also partnered on this particular one with the Warren County Economic Development. So we do work hand in hand with them to make sure that all of our stuff is aligned to what Warren County's needs are or our surrounding communities. The next narrative goes on to say, to describe how the activities will be provided in collaboration with local workforce development boards and other local workforce agencies such as WIOA, One Stop Delivery Systems, and other partners. And this talks about all the career explorations in which we are a part of. We have just completed, currently in May, a career exploration with Johnson County for the Triad Workforce Development,
Great.
because we did not have one with CARTAR. CARTAR actually partnered with them, so it allowed us to meet a broader spectrum where we had about 2 participants that were seniors that were looking for jobs after our graduation. So that was the whole gist of why they did the career exploration, to receive jobs right after graduation if they weren't going to school. So that's an example of a partnership that we do have that's regional. We also introduced career awareness in middle grades. What we like to do with our middle grades is to give them an opportunity to get basic skills that can carry them through any pathway that they choose, such as computer skills. We're in that century that everybody has some sort of smartphone. Even though if we're not smart enough to use the smartphone, everybody has one. So the kids are very savvy with figuring out those phones without instructions.
That's true.
You know, you give a baby a phone, they figure it out quick. So we have actually introduced with them coding. We have well, we don't call it typing, we call it computer applications. And then we also have a Verizon curriculum that allows them to do 3D, and it gives them an option to do virtual reality embedded inside of that practice. So we do give them those opportunities during these grade levels to explore careers and define what they would like to do.
Before you get off that page,
Go ahead.
before you turn the page, I know that we as a board are working really hard to develop strong relationships with the county commissioners, and the county government. So what does the partnership with the economic development look like? We keep talking about that, and how tangible is that relationship? What does it look like?
Well, right now, due to the fact of the turnover, and now Charlotte's there, they actually have partnered with us on a grant that we have written, and actually we renewed it for this year. the pandemic put a lot of hold on a lot of things for us. So where we would have built that relationship completely out with our committee meetings, it put a hold on it. So this year, we're actually trying to start that back up because it's a requirement for Perkins funding. So without those committees, we can't get funded. But we do have a partnership that deals with the local businesses in relationships to agriculture and getting them employment, which is part of our student internships.
I just
Yeah.
think that's great. That's what we want to see is what
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
and
Thank
we're
you.
trying to get that up and running because we just submitted that application for this year at the end of May.
And I understand the pandemic has put everything
Yeah,
upside
and
down.
also, we also have another partnership we're doing with Vance Granville as well as the USDA because they just received a grant to work with some sort of agricultural businesses
That's
within the area
That's
through
good.
Vance Granville and
That's
all
what we
four
want to
counties.
hear.
So we're trying to get the interest of the students that would like to pursue that area, or at
That's
least
good.
give them the knowledge of, since we don't have the opportunity to have that in-house, giving them that opportunity.
Great, thank you.
So here, this one talks about describing the local eligibility recipients. We're trying to give them skills that will allow them to be high-skilled and high-wage and in-demand industries. Matter of fact, when Ms. Brame had her restaurant, we had already talked about doing some sort of internships there. Again, bridging the gap with the community, allowing our occupational course of study students to get service hours. So just giving them some sort of outlet, even though we're a small community, but giving them something and somewhere to actually identify what business is like versus actual school.
Yeah.
So we try to partner with that. So as we see these new businesses popping up with Warren Frontier or Frontier Warren, we will also partner with them as well, trying to make sure that they are exposed to some sort of high skill and high wage
That's
and
great.
in-demand job,
That's great.
based upon what their goals are calling for. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question.
Mhm.
So, do you have a partnership with the fast food industry?
Most of our kids already have jobs there.
Okay.
What we try to do is give them exposure that they haven't had an opportunity to. So fast food is really a little bit different, especially Hardee's, because of their privately owned. It sets the limits different than what we're asking
That's
them to
right.
do. A lot of people don't want to spend the time or take the time because of the training or the liability that's there.
Understood.
Yeah, so that's why we try to stay with sole proprietorships where we can actually
Right.
go in and have the conversation and say, you know, can we do this if it's nothing but for 5 minutes a day just to get that exposure and then 3 days a week? You know, just to get them out of the building to say we've got an experience. Because I know we have had a lot of issues with trying to help some of those service learning hours for our occupational students because everything had to be done within a school. And we wanted to branch out because if we're trying to prepare them for high-wage jobs, they're not getting that just going to another school and practicing that skill. They physically need to be in the workforce so they can see how it operates.
Okay, the reason why I asked, because I did ask that question to one of the fast food places,
Okay,
and they
Tell her,
was,
Victoria.
and they were interested, you know.
okay. Well, if you could get me that information, I would definitely talk with them because we do have some people, especially in our foods and nutrition classes, that are, I'm certain they're looking for jobs, but it will give them some exposure to what that fast food industry is recognizing. And we also offer a certification that would assist them in fast food.
That's good.
Mr. Vaughn,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
about the radio station, local radio station, and the newspaper?
We're working on some sort of marketing component that will allow the students to interject with that opportunity. We're building that out, and we're looking at that as what we will call an externship.
Okay.
Because we finally have received a teacher that will be teaching Adobe, so they will be able to learn the craft behind the scenes to help to promote the program.
Okay.
So we're working on that as we speak. So the next one talks about how we also like to encourage non-traditional fields. One of our major problems is that we see a lot of people who looks at nursing as a female industry. So we try to encourage those non-traditional participants to participate. Women inside of masonry, men inside of healthcare.
That's right.
So that's our biggest component. We're trying to get that knowledge and that skill set out there to them and show them whatever you decide to do, here's your opportunity.
That's right.
So that's part of how we determine the eligible recipients. The next one talks about opportunities to gain post-secondary credit while still in high school, such as articulated credits and CTE, CCP classes, which is Career and College Promise, which is where Vance Granville comes in at. We don't manage Vance Granville on the early college side. We manage Vance Granville on the high school side where they're doing dual enrollment. So the past 2 years, we've had our CNA classes being taught through Vance Granville, 2 successful classes. And they have offered us Farm Tech 1 and 2, in addition to cosmetology and business certificate. We had started a carpentry certificate. When Mr. Hawkins left, that put that on hold. Now that we're in 2021, I had a conversation with Linden, and they actually have found and hired a carpentry teacher, and we are starting that program back up for carpentry dual enrollment this school year. We just got to get some people to come in. Right now, we got about three kids that are interested, and our conversations were we weren't really concerned about the numbers. We need to get the program up and running.
That's right.
So that's where we are with that.
That's right.
So we are, every day we're trying to bridge that gap and seeing how we can get more programs with them without eliminating our teachers' jobs.
Right.
Without.
That's right. Without
Because
that.
we don't want to put a program there that we can actually house
That's right.
in-house. So that's one of our biggest look forwards, is to make sure that we're doing what we can do here before we go for that class. The next one talks about how we support for recruitment, preparation, retention, and training, and including professional development of teachers, faculty and administration, and specialized instruction support personnel and paraprofessionals, including individuals from groups underrepresented in the teaching profession. What we've tried to do, I know for the last 5 years, we've tried to bridge the gap and build a tighter relationship with human resources. Because one thing we have a issue with is when we're dealing with CTE teachers, some of them may get far behind because of the hands-on translation in class and doing licensure. We want them to easily transition and get licensure accomplished while teaching. So we try to make sure that we're there to support them with that. If it's a class that I need to look for them, I would call and say, hey, can we do this? Or I would say, Casey, what does this person need? Just trying to make sure that they're being certified, because in addition to what they receive from the state, they have to do a 40-hour induction.
Okay.
So off the bat, I can tell any teacher who's coming into CTE, you're gonna have to do a 40-hour induction. Now, we can wait for the rest of the stuff, but we know we're gonna have to do a 40-hour induction. Here are the dates in which they are available. So we just have to make sure that we're communicating, and we have bridged that gap over the years.
That's good.
To tighten it and strengthen it so that we can retain our teachers. Because a lot of times if a teacher leaves us, very seldom could we hire that teacher because of salary, because of population, and lack of funding. So we just have to make sure we maintain those relationships. You can go ahead. So this is what we received as of this year. And the way this is projected, they gave us the same projections for next year upcoming. All this is subject to change due to daily membership. So this is Perkins Funds. This is where I've allocated the money for this year, but we can move it. So this is just the general categories until we see what we have going on, and then we can adjust by doing a budget request to change. And that's PRC 17. Next one. This is for months of employment. This is PRC 13. As it stands at this moment, this is the way we allocate our funds. We're given 127 months of employment. Each teacher is given 10 months of employment. With New Tech, we have 5 months of employment, and she teaches business education. So with that being said, that leaves 2 months. Because we don't receive local funding, we have to have some money to be flexible. Instead of staffing completely out, we use those 2 months to allow us to either send them on field trips, do supplies, whatever we need to support those teachers. If it's a certification they have to go get, we have some funding to play with versus so tight, I have to say, I can't help you. So we don't want that to take place. So we try to have something on reserve so that we can get them supplies and materials that they need or would like to have to keep them on the cutting edge of technology and our programs updates. So this is the breakout for all 4 of our schools.
Go back one slide. For your overall program, Mr.
Uh-huh.
Paul, are you missing, with you and Odessa,
Yes.
are you looking for a career development coordinator?
No, that's her.
Okay, so you're doing curriculum instruction and management coordinator?
Yes.
Okay.
This is PRC 14. PRC 14 is the budget item that we use and can use the most to support our middle grades. We can go as low as 6th grade because we can't use federal funding. So this is how we've allocated the $33,000 that we will receive. And the state does allocate more money if there is a PSU, public school unit, that did not use all of their funding, or if a school unit actually closed, they would take what would have been shared with them and disperse it throughout the state. So it would increase our receivings on the end. And we also get funding for credentialing.
Okay, good.
What contractor services are you doing?
For that one, we have a color copier. So when they,
Okay. I'm thinking personnel.
I was
No.
thinking personnel too.
Personnel
Okay.
would actually be under, you would see a different line item for that.
Okay.
We haven't had to contract anyone yet. That is a flexibility that we do have with licensure, where we can actually hire an adjunct if we
Okay.
can't find an actual licensed teacher.
Okay.
So that gives us a little bit more
Okay.
flexibility. And that's what Perkins 5 has actually done for us. It's given us a lot of flexibility to the fact that they know that everybody is not a Wake County when it
Right.
comes to finances.
That's right.
So we have to be a lot more flexible with the budget so that we can be productive
That's
across
right.
the board. So they have given us a lot of flexibility with approval from the state.
Yeah.
And then last but not least are our assurances. And this merely says that you as a board, we as a district will agree to follow the rules and regulations set forth by Department of Public Instruction and Perkins 5. And if not, somebody's gonna pay back somebody. So, they just want the signatures, and it's usually the people that signs. So are there any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't, does the S stand for section or strand, or what does the S stand for? It was 3S1.
3S1,
Yeah, what's the S stand for?
I would say strand. We've
Okay.
never had a real definition for the S. We've just always referenced it 1S1, 2S1.
Okay, so it said that Warren County Schools has 100% post-secondary placement. So
Yes.
that's a placement in what?
Whether they're in military, school, or workforce.
Now, do we do anything other than, do we do any follow-up other than just being placed?
We
2
do
years
because-
later, 4 years later?
We don't go that far out. We have talked about that as a region and as a state of how that will look versus just getting a report. Because generally the way we're operating now is that we get a concentrated report after they've graduated. So I've filled out one for those of last year. So we're always a year behind, which for us, we've all said that it's best if we do it before so we can start tracking them
That's right.
evenly across the state or wherever they're going. So they're looking at some different options because one thing that the state has done, they have updated their data portal. So where we would have access to a generic file, they're actually breaking down the strands of the data a lot more for us to be more specific per county and per district.
That's
I know
good.
there's one district that says, they talk about what they want their students to be doing when they're 26, and they follow them. So it's not just getting into, I can account for myself. I have a son who went to college,
Right.
but he didn't, so, placing is a start, but it's
And I
not a
think
finish.
Right, and I think placement is in-house.
One thing too
Yeah,
that
could
we
do
That
that.
have,
follow-up could be really helpful, because sometimes we're putting kids, funneling them someplace where maybe they don't even, it's not
Right.
best for them.
so we also have another grant that we've applied for. We applied for 2 grants. One was the Educational Workforce Funding Grant, which was the one that would allow us to have paid internships for our students. The second one was a grade expansion grant. So in that grade expansion grant, that will allow for personnel, because I could only hire one person, to help broaden the horizons, and one reaching the 5th grade career awareness, and two, can actually give us more manpower so that we can seek out past graduation. And we also have a program now that we've just purchased that starting in 6th grade, they will be allowed to make their career exploration worksheet to take them all the way through high school and giving them the opportunity to see which classes they would take. So that'll be another method for us to actually track to see, did they follow that path? And parents would have access to that.
Yeah, I think that would be good information if we can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My question, Mr. Fogg, is on the local application narratives, it was 6 areas, career academies, I guess, that's listed. How many, for the high school?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many courses that covers that we're currently offering?
Yeah, I can tell you. Hold on one second. About 20.
20.
Yes, ma'am.
In the average class with, I don't know, maybe 20?
Class size? Depending upon if it's a lab class is anywhere from 16 to 20. Regular academic classes is 20.
Okay.
20, 25.
Okay.
Depending upon seating.
So the classes are fairly large.
Yes.
Okay.
And the way we're looking at scheduling for this year, this will be the first year where we will offer in rotation. So where we would usually be able to offer something twice per year, I'm going to do it either in the fall or the spring, just so that we can rotate through the classes to give them the experience of other options. So we can introduce new courses such as adulting.
Perfect.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
We've been
That's
talking
great.
about that.
And I guess the other piece from what Sims was asking is, in my mind, we do a lot of, and I think it's great to be excited about what college they're going to and stuff like that. But every kid doesn't go to college.
Right.
And so I would like for us to put some hype around your CTEs, and really expand it and let the young people know that you don't have to go to college, because guess what happens? They go to college and can't find a job. But you get a
Absolutely.
trade or a vocational skill and make more money sometimes than a college person.
Absolutely.
And so if we can kind of hype that up for, you sell it, market it, or whatever we need to do, because a lot of young people are gaining so much from going
Right.
through those CTE classes.
And one way we started with that prior to the pandemic, we used to have a career exploration for middle grades.
Uh-huh.
So we would bus the 8th graders over from Northside
I remember
over
that.
here, and we would invite different community
remember that.
service workers so that they can identify with the tools and the toys
That's
that they
right.
like. And then from there, they had the opportunity to talk about with them, what does it take to be that person? So by the time they
Yeah.
get to the high school, we'll have an actual college
Yeah.
fair and then another job fair.
Let's get back to that.
So yeah,
That's great.
if we can move this pandemic,
I
we're
know,
on our
right?
way.
Well, thank you. Any other questions?
I just have a question about just let me enlighten me on the career development coordinator. Exactly what does that position require? I mean, what is the job description?
Okay, so that person actually is in charge of dealing with the students and helping them manage their career goals. That job has them, they will go to a class one-on-one, meet with every child, do a career development plan. That plan is to go from 6th grade up to 12th grade.
Okay.
And right now, we're doing half and half because, again, we needed more electives, and she's actually teaching career management in-house and career development on the second half of the day. So right now, it looks a little bit different than what it would traditionally be, because they also work with our CCP classes to make sure that those students are very well accessible and have access to everything that they need, also as a support mechanism.
So they have to work with all the schools?
They work with all schools that have CTE,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just one person.
just that one person. And for an unduplicated count, we're looking at about 800 kids for unduplicated count in CTE classes. So, and that's where we kind of share that load. If we're very good at working together. She would say where she is, we have running documents. what she can't do, I'll pick up and we'll make it match, and trying to make sure that we reach all children.
It's quite a bit, we don't want to overwhelm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, we appreciate it. Thank you. And this is an action item, so I call for a motion to approve the 2021-2022 CTE Local Application Plan that was presented by Ms. Jennings and Mr. Fogg.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the CTE local application 2021-22 as presented by Mr. Fogg and Ms. Jennings.
And I second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Lehman, second by Ms. Sims. May we vote, please? And then vote by raising our hand. The motion carries. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to again say thank you to Ms. Jennings and to Mr. Fogg for their presentation. At this time, we'll have Ms. Pulliam for contracts and services exceeding $30,000. And just want to give kudos out to Ms. Pulliam because we know that it's end of the year closeout and
Yes.
she's been working overtime along with her team.
No,
So
she
it's a
is.
busy time of the year.
I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so what we have here is a couple of Siemens proposals, and it's related to our panel upgrades at two at Warren County High School and one at Miriam Boyd. And those panels relate to making sure that the correct temperature control is adjusted or set as it should be. So that's what these panels do in basic. That's the basic definition that I can give you for those three panels. So that's the high school, two at the high school and one at Miriam Boyd. We also have a proposal from Siemens for the service agreement, and that's closer to the bottom. So what they're proposing is a 3-year contract, which is what we previously had. So I got the cost for each of those years that we have this contract that the proposal relates to. And it's for the repairs that they would do for any things that go on with the panels, online support, training for our maintenance staff, automation, quality assurance, and database backup. So that's what that service agreement proposal relates to. And you can see further down at the bottom, our previous payment history with this same vendor. Any questions about the proposals? And I emailed you all a copy as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Any questions? This is an action item. Okay, so I call for a motion for us to approve the contract and service exceeding $30,000 that was just presented by Ms. Pulliam.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Siemens proposal as presented by Ms. Pulliam for June 2021.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Lehman, second by Ms. Long. May we vote, please? And may we raise our hand. Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Pulliam. So at this time, we'll have action item 5.4, budget amendment number 10.
Right. And here we have our, this will be our next to last budget amendment. And the reason we don't do the last one in June is one, because we moved it up a little earlier than the last day. But we want to give DPI time to give us feedback on any changes that we did in those expenses. So what we do at the end of the year is try to make sure that we use up those state funds that we are allotted so we don't lose them. And in moving those expenses around, we have to make sure they're allowable. So I follow the chart of accounts, but we still want to give DPI the opportunity to review them and send us back any things that need to be changed, and then be able to make those changes. So on June the 30th, DPI pulls our information from our accounting software, and then on maybe a week after, that's when they give us feedback as to any expenses that may not be allowable. I don't foresee it, but you never know. So we give them that opportunity, and then in July, I'll submit the final budget amendment to you all for this current fiscal year.
Have we used the funds? Have you been able to use
Yes,
those?
so all of these changes related to
Okay.
making sure we use all of those state funds that don't carry over.
Right.
And the majority of them do not.
Okay.
So as you will see, if we scroll down to the bottom of this document, the changes you'll see resulted in a decrease, and that mainly relates to our teacher positions, because they're based on however much it costs for that teacher, they're going to pay the amount. So
Right.
we adjusted it to match actual expenses. Same thing with PRC 009. That's our contributory PRC, and it relates to people who retire,
Okay.
that pay out longevity. So the state pays that. So regardless of the cost, they pay it. So at the end, we reduce it or increase it to match actual expenses. In this case, we reduced it to match what that was. Same thing with PRC 013, which Mr. Fogg spoke of. For those CTE positions, we put a budget amount in, and then at the end, we adjust the budget to match actual expenses.
Okay.
So those are the main ones, PRC 001, 009, and 013, that we adjust up or down to match actual expenses.
Okay.
And
Great.
then we have some other changes in federal. No reduction there because all of the federals, except 017, carry over. So there weren't any additions or reductions, just some changes that resulted in a net zero. And for school nutrition, that change is related to the indirect costs. And those are the only changes that we have.
Any questions? This is also an action item, so I call for a motion for us to approve the budget amendment number 10 that has been presented by Ms. Pulliam.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve budget amendment item number 10.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Sims, second by Ms. Long. May we vote, please? And then by our hands. The motion is carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Pulliam. I appreciate all your hard work.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, so I guess this is me.
Yes, ma'am.
I talked with Dr. Whitaker about adding the student dress code to the agenda. And the purpose of me asking her to do that is, and I'm not putting Mrs. Stewart on the spot, but I want to allude to Mrs. Stewart, when you were presenting some things to us, you shared, I think, a relaxed dress code for that pandemic year, and I thought that's what we were kind of operating in, correct? Yes, ma'am. Okay, and so I asked Dr. Whitaker if she would kind of just share the dress code, and she did, and we all had an opportunity to look at it. And I just wanted to there's been so many, I guess, how you say it, community concerns about that dress code, specifically coming from the parents about buying uniforms and what we would call the shirts and the khakis and, their pants they're supposed to wear, and the students that I have heard. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but there have been so many since I've been on this board, from the time I got here to up to now. They've talked about, wanting to, can you give us a chance to look at this dress code and just wear our own clothes? So this document kind of shares some do's and don'ts.
Right, this is a document that Mr. Stewart shared in his reopening
Yep.
plan presentation that took place earlier in the school year, and so definitely received consultation from executive cabinet in putting together that document. And the overall goal was so that students and parents wouldn't feel the burden of having to, buy a certain uniform
Yes.
in the middle of a pandemic. So that's where it
Okay,
came
that's
from.
where it came from.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, let's talk about it. I mean, we can talk about it.
So this is what he's proposing for
No.
the beginning of the school year?
Right, this is what we've been operating on since
Operating
school opened up, Ms. Long, and that was just so that we could alleviate the stress. We know
Right.
the kids were, returning back and just not wanting them to have to be stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this particular, norms as it comes to the dress code, was discussed amongst executive cabinet. We got feedback from our management team as well as our reopening committee that Mr. Stewart was facilitating facilitating
Principals?
during that time, inclusive of principals, yes, ma'am, as well as other district level staff. And so this is how we've been operating. I do know that we've also had conversations and calls that Ms. Jennings and I were debriefing about today on the other side of parents who have purchased uniforms or who have uniforms already, and just sharing with them that if
They
your
can wear
babies have the uniforms, you want them to
Yeah.
wear them, then they can. But those that don't, then they can certainly operate off of this as well. So just the whole equity piece. So if you have
Right.
them, certainly
Wear
if you
them.
want to wear them, and if not, then just operating off of these norms. And it's worked pretty well, I think, for the most part. So
And I think that should be communicated on this,
yes, ma'am. Okay.
That's a good point.
About
let them know that, it's not required to wear the uniform, yet, however, if they have them,
You
they
can
can
wear 'em.
wear
Right,
them, because they
yes,
can
ma'am.
change up.
That's right.
Wear, the
That's a
bottom
good
with
point.
something else or the top with something else.
You can
So I
add.
just think
Yes,
it's,
ma'am,
and
we'll
I
add
think
a
this is in good timing to get this out to parents in every way that we can, so that they'll be aware of it. So they don't have to rush at the last minute, what are my children gonna wear at school? So this is good timing to get it out as soon as possible.
And Ms. Linda? Discussion, we just having discussion about it. I just want to make sure you get everybody's feedback.
Well, if this is what the students want, and this is what we have
Mrs.
agreed, Mr. Stewart has agreed upon, and, the admin, I don't see any problem with it.
Okay. All right. Victoria?
There's been a policy, 4316, for 13 years, and I know how long it took to make this a policy, and it's a standard mode of dress. I know how much time went into collectively looking at the community, parents, teachers, everyone to make the decision. I just don't want it to be arbitrary and capricious that we turn it over without any formal input, because we're going to always hear, I'm not a proponent one way or the other, but we often hear the people the loudest who want something to change. We put a variance on it for the COVID year. This is not a COVID year. We just need to be clear on what we're doing and why we're doing it, because there's no going back.
And I think,
If we do it, there's no going back, because it took years to get this policy in place. And if we're gonna change it, we need to know why we're changing it. I mean, so it says that uniform or standard mode of dress, this is policy that it contributes to, and I know there's some question about it, safety reasons. We know who's in the building, who's not in the building. There's different reasons why we implement it. Now, do we not agree with that anymore?
Oh,
Do we
yes.
not agree with our policy now? It says school uniforms promote unity by allowing students to become more conscious of shared goals, such as meeting academic standards, developing self-confidence, and understanding diversity. They may contribute to an environment in which dropout rates are reduced, school attendance is increased, and student achievement is the highest priority. This is where we stand. Are we not, do we not stand here anymore?
Well, my concern is this is, they have gone through, we're still going through this pandemic. And a lot of parents, I think would be doing it's not, we are giving them the opportunity to do the best they can with their students' dress, because they might not be financially able. There are a lot of factors involved. So I think we're just giving the parents an opportunity, rather than say uniforms, and they have to, some of them might can't afford uniforms at this time, because they've gone through being laid off, a lot of factors involved. I think we need to look at what's best for our community.
In the midst-
I
in-
agree, but we need to hear from everyone, and teachers. I know that there's some principals who feel strongly about it.
Well, like you
And
said.
so I just think that we need to, it was a collective decision. It took a long time to come to this, and I just think that we need to make sure that everybody's voice is heard before we make a decision. I'm not sure every voice has been heard, but if the board feels that it is, because it's our job to approve it. That's our job.
Let me hear from you, Sims. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Ms. Long. Thank you, Linda.
I think the board probably knows, one of the first things I asked for when I got on this board was to look at the uniform policy.
You did.
Because
You
I
did.
think.
And they did.
Yeah, we did. And Mr. Stewart
Yeah, he
will
did.
say, yeah, he definitely did, and everybody else did. Because from the time that I was in the county, all I've heard about was the uniform and parents not agreeing with the uniform, students not wanting to be in the uniform. I definitely agree. I agree that the policy is no longer relevant to the students, to most of the parents. I don't know which principals are still.
I don't either. Be good to know though.
I'm
are
not
still
gonna say
wanting the
names.
uniform.
No.
I definitely am 150% in favor of not having a uniform. And I don't think that the policy is still relevant, in
Right.
my opinion. So I do think that we need to move forward with the dress
Well,
code.
if I could say this, not to cut across you, one of the things we do as board members is we create policy, we make policy, we amend policy, so we can, I think policy is important, and so we can change the policy. But right now, the here and now is this document in front of us, and I think Ms. Long and Linda, I think we're in a pandemic, and and I want to make sure that we on the same page with the teachers and the principals too. We don't want to make their job difficult, and I was told by some of the teachers and principals that it's hard to be reprimanded by your principal when you didn't check that kid at the door because he or she had a hood, and they coming by saying, "Why didn't you catch that? Why didn't you catch that?" Well, sometimes you don't catch it, you miss it, and I don't know if we need to be, I don't know. And I think that they were just trying to follow the policy, and I get it. But now it's an opportunity for us as a board to change policy if it benefits the whole district, the students. Our goal is to support the students. Let's see if we change these dress codes and these grades go up. We can't, they say, well, they worry about our clothes more than they do about teaching us anything. I've been told that so many times by teachers, by students.
Often.
And it's like, I said, well, what do you mean? Well, we spend 15 minutes about clothes, and we could have been in talking about math. So, and hear me, I don't totally agree. I like for them to be in a uniform, but guess what? It's not about what I like. It's about what I hear that they want. So where I stand as an individual is I embrace uniforms. I believe in them. But the kids changed my mind about it. I'll be honest with you. And Linda and Victoria has been here with me the whole time. I did not want to change the uniform because I like them to look professional. But guess what? They can still look professional in their regular clothes. And I needed to broaden my horizon, my mind, and say, you know what? We have to change with the times. And so I'm trying to be open-minded too.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, and you actually made a point to the one change or the one addition I would like to see, and that is hoodies.
Hoodies.
Because I think that is often something that we've heard, or
All
I've
the
heard a lot
time.
about, and that's not addressed in the dress code.
we can
So I
add-
do think we need to do some type of addition about hoodies, because I do think that's an issue, or I've heard about an
I had
issue.
so many calls on the
So,
hoodies.
yeah, so maybe we can add something about hoodies
Okay.
in here.
Go ahead.
Right, and thank you so much, Ms. Sims. And so when we pulled, like I said, this particular template here, it was just so that we could have a guidance or baseline. So we can look at some different things, such as, conducting some surveys to see how certain schools feel about, uniforms. I know some school districts that I've worked in, some schools prefer to have the uniform. It's whatever your initiative is. So I had a charge and ambassador program over in Weldon where my students wore uniforms on certain days, not every day.
Right.
But it's what works best for your school. And so certainly in getting that feedback, I guess, from principals or whatever the case is. But when we pulled this particular template, it was just so that we would have a guide or a baseline, and we'll definitely add, the additions that you guys are sharing, and just in thoughts of operating for the 21-22 school year as we had this school year with, not being so, strict on students having to wear uniforms
That's right.
or not, but giving them that flexibility. So that's the lens that we were looking at from Exec Cab when we pulled this particular document, just to give parents a baseline. But certainly we will add that about the hoodies, Ms. Sims, and any other additions. And then also from a policy standpoint, Ms. Lamus, you and I certainly can consult with some other districts and see what their, policy looks like as it relates to dress code, and hopefully can come to a compromise, since you all are saying it needs to be revised. And now I want people to be stressed about what they're having to wear to school, as long as they're following a guide.
That's right. Thank you.
Mrs. Stewart, this is a question for you. Did you have any concerns when this was developed for the, summer school? I think the summer school is using the same policy, right?
Well, they started for 2021.
2021.
Yes, ma'am. It started in March.
Yeah.
Started
So when we
March.
brought the
Okay,
children back in
Did you have
March.
any concerns from parents or students about it?
The calls that we got they were grateful, because they didn't have to go out in the middle of a pandemic
Right.
to buy clothes.
Right.
The word that we got from principals and teachers were that they were happy because
Okay.
that was one less thing
Had to worry about
that they did not have to police.
monitor.
And we had some principals that did tell us that they spent a good amount of time
See?
having to police the dress code.
Yeah.
And they,
That's what they
to
told
put
me.
it bluntly, they were cursed out plenty of times.
Right.
That's what they told me.
Yeah, because of dress code. So some of them were very happy with this. We didn't have many issues with students violating that at least came to my office. We didn't have issues with vulgarity or,
Right.
slogans or things of that nature. So it appeared, I guess what I'm trying to say is it appeared to have gone over well with the sample size that we had that returned in March. And so far in camp, luau, I don't think
good.
we've had many issues. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's very important.
It is
that-
important.
To know, because, believe it or not, we're still in a
Yes, ma'am.
pandemic.
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct.
And it might be very difficult for parents to really go out here and,
I agree.
And I think that the time factor is important. We have to make sure that we come up with something in a timely manner so that we can share this with the parents, because we don't wait till the last minute or 2 or 3 weeks before school open with a plan. And, that's my biggest concern.
Thank you. So I call for a motion to approve the dress code.
Can I have
For
some
the
clarity? So are we, so the dress code as it stands here,
So we're gonna give the district the autonomy to go back and make the adjustment they can wear uniforms if they need to, if they want to, that's an option.
of course they can.
So are we still doing the surveys? I think
Yeah,
that's
and they're gonna
still a
do the
good idea.
surveys. I
It's
think
up
At
to
least
you.
we'll have that documentation.
Absolutely.
And it may be, like I said, you may not get a full, like I said, reaction
Right.
from the
That's fine.
teachers, because I know we have some out, and same with parents, because we know we're out of session right
Right.
now. But the good thing we've got working in our favor is
Yeah.
summer learning. So, and that way you can get that feedback, because I know overall, just from what Mr. Stewart shared, Ms. Jennings and Ms. Pullman, as we talk about this, haven't had many complaints about the dress code, but certainly I know it's important, Ms. Lehman, for to have data,
Yeah.
so you can really see what people are thinking. And so we can definitely conduct the surveys. It just may not be a high participation rate to see what
Understood.
certain schools and principals might
Understood.
want. But in the meantime, like you say, Ms. Long, it's going to be critical that parents know, what our
Ahead of
dress
time.
code is, so they're not stressed out wondering if one school picks a dress code and the other
That's
one
right.
doesn't. I just think, we were just thinking in terms of, for the 21-22 school year, that we would just operate with this dress code,
That's
with the
right.
norms here,
Yes.
without maybe not necessarily making a formal change to policy until you have a chance to really review it. And maybe that's something
I
we
agree
can
with
propose too. We conduct the surveys in the fall, but because of the
that
nature of the
makes sense.
pandemic and, challenges that families are facing, that because this is working, it's been working since March, it's work doing summer learning, that we propose this for 21-22, but then conduct those surveys before you guys take any formal action on the policy itself, and then you'll have the data that you
Okay.
need. That
I
might-
don't have a problem with
I think
that.
that makes sense. So I guess I just want to be clear, the administration is recommending that we, the board, approve this dress code.
Right, what I would say is it didn't necessarily come from, we've been operating off of this since March, as we
Right.
shared, but because we know we're going, that the kids are coming back to school, in conversation, with Ms. Tally Brain, that to bring this forward because parents are asking questions, and so that was the reason for, having it as an action item so the parents would know that we would be operating off of this for the 21-22 school year, as just like as a guide. But so yes, ma'am, I would say we are proposing this
That's right.
because we've been operating off of it since March.
So I call for a motion to approve the student dress code.
Is that what the motion, when the motion needs to be?
Can we say for 21-22 school
21-20.
years?
Yeah, 21-22 school year.
Okay. I make a motion, we approve the dress code for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Sims, second by Ms. Lehman. May we vote, please? And then by raising our hand. The motion is carried. Thank you. All right, real quickly, I just want to, I don't really have a whole lot of announcements, but I do want to share in general that we did attend as a board, the North Carolina School Board Association Summer Leadership and Policy Conference. The first 3 days were specifically around the leadership, and then the last 2 days on policy. And we've had some change in leadership. Most of you may remember Ed Dunlap, who was over the association. Now, the executive director is Ms. Leanne, was her name Winter?
Winner.
Winner.
Yeah, winner. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so she's the executive director, and so we embraced that. I think a lot of people were just going in, were just happy to get back to some type of sense of normalcy and be able to see the new board members. We were able to introduce Ms. Sims and Ms. Long because they hadn't gone in an in-person meeting. It was a really good conference, and the other person that, if you all remember, that helped us, I know Linda and Victoria do, with our, we did a lot of work with Allison Schaefer. Well, the person who took over Allison Schaefer's position is, I think her name is Christine Schief, or Schief.
It's like Schieffer, but I'm
Schieffer,
not sure.
something like that, yeah. And she's the new national director of policy. And so that was a new face too. And so hopefully we'll be able to do some work with them, and you guys will see her. And I know you guys know who Allison is, and she's no longer with the company anymore. But this new lady, she seems to be very knowledgeable. She, so it was a good training. I'm just going to give way to my colleagues, and you guys just share briefly a couple of takeaways. We'll start with whomever. Victoria, you want to?
I'm not sure who said it, but Miss Kearney Alston Kearney is not here right now, but something that I wrote is, as students come back to school, that we as educators need to lead with empathy.
Oh, yeah, that was powerful.
And that emotion precedes cognition, and we spent a lot of time talking about that and what that means, and the effect of trauma on people, and how kids just are going to really need a chance just to be together before they think about school.
That's right.
So that was just a simple takeaway.
Yeah.
I think that there could be something where we shared some of what we had with the board in terms of best practices that other boards use, and other superintendents gave us suggestions that were really helpful. And so maybe we could have a shout out of something that we learned particularly that works in another district that maybe that we could use.
I agree.
Because the last 2 days were about policy, And it's very timely because we're just talking about the
Exactly.
dress code
Exactly.
policy and how important it is, you
Yes,
know.
that's
There's
right.
always changes in policy.
That's right.
So I guess the bottom line is that we definitely need to be in compliance
That's right.
at all times.
That's right.
And any changes that we need to make, you know, we have that autonomy to
That's
do
right,
that.
to do it. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Linda.
Well, being a new board member, I did get a whole lot, so I'm not gonna say a whole lot. But I think it's important that we are transparent. And from the schools
That's
to
right.
central office, to superintendent, and to the Board of Education.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to be, you know, left out in the blind, you know, when
That's right.
parents come and, you know, communities come, and they know more than you know.
That's right.
So we don't want that to happen. Due to the decrease in public school student enrollment, and that's a national problem, but it appears to be a larger problem for us because we're such a small school system. Superintendents working with their board members, and they have a lot of tough decisions to make.
Yeah.
Especially since school reform is a social challenge and the public must be educated on the need for change. Money must be put in the right place to better serve our students in order to offer them the best academic choices, which we can focus on not only the traditional disciplines, but also skills like digital literacy and emotional intelligence. We must organize harder, and we must organize broader.
Thank you for that, Ms. Long. Thank you. Ms. Seaman?
So as Ms. Long said, being new board members, there were a lot of things that we took away, especially that I took away. One of them is they talked a lot about the Leandro case when Judge Manning, and I happened to be in Halifax County, which was one of the original counties in the lawsuit. So they talked about Judge Manning and then Judge Lee, who's over the Leandro case now. And it's funny because they talked about it's 25 years later and how we are really in the same position that we were 25 years ago. And the deficits that the school system is still showing. And, you know, it just puts you in a different light to think about, you know, all of it. It was only 5 school systems that started that lawsuit, but how many now are in that same position? And you know, the needs that the children, how many children's needs are not being met. So that was one of the things. But the other thing that they talked a lot about was transparency.
That's right.
And the need for transparency from the top, from the superintendent,
That's right.
from the board, for the relationships that you have to have. And if we don't have transparency, parents aren't going to trust us.
That's right.
The students aren't going to trust us. And you have to have a relationship with each other.
That's right.
The board with the superintendents with their staff and their principals. And if we all can do what's best for the children and be transparent, it'll help the system to run better.
Yes.
And so, you know, that was just a takeaway that I think we all talked about in the end.
Well, I appreciate that too, Ms. Sims. I appreciate all of you and your feedback. And, you know, it was just, I thought it was a great leadership. I thought it was really great. And like Victoria, like you said, I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to kind of come together, Dr. Whitaker, if we could somehow, and really dive a little deeper into the things that we really got from the training. Because I think it's so important that, you know, when you go and you learn, that you share, right? And we want you guys, we want to share with you all what we, you know, the takeaways, so that we can implement some of these things. Because I think if people are doing it, why reinvent the wheel? You know, and it helps us all as a district. So we really appreciated the opportunity to gain so much knowledge there. All right, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I call for a motion to convene into closed session.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we convene into closed session.
Okay, 1 and 6.
Let me see, I don't have
Right
it
here.
in front of me. 1 through 6.
1 and 6.
1 and 6.
Somebody second.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Motion has been made by Ms. Byrd, properly second by Ms. Lehman. May we vote, please? And may we vote by raising our hand. Motion's carry. All right, thank you. We'll take about 10 minutes, is that okay? 5 minutes? Give us at least 10 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? You ready? Not a problem with me. 5 minutes and then we'll come back. Thank you. Thank you all. report.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the personnel report presented.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Sims, second by Ms. Lehman. May we vote, please? And then maybe raise our hand by voting. The motion's carried. Thank you. Are there any other discussion or any takeaways? I think it was a very productive meeting. And if there's nothing else, I call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Lehman, second by Ms. Sims. May we vote, please? And by raising our hand, the motion carry. Thank you guys for